Alright, looks like we are live. Thanks for coming in tonight, guys. Listen to the competition shooting chat. As always, it's posted over on gunchannels.com. Hope you're over there participating in the text chat, asking questions. We'll be watching that. And if you're watching live, that's awesome. We appreciate it. So, anyways, tonight we have Tim Herron from Sig Sauer. Thanks for coming by, Tim.
Hey guys, nice to be here.
And we have Craig Foose, as we call him.
Yeah, how's it going? How's it going, guys?
Pretty good, thanks for coming. And tonight we're going to talk about shooting fast. So I thought this was a pretty good topic. I was actually talking to some of the other guys I shoot with not too long ago about this. And it really applies to everybody who shoots, because you see, without a doubt, almost everybody who's new, you come out to USPSA or IDPay, whatever, and you're like, I want to shoot fast, like this, I want to go real fast. And I did the same thing when I first started, and it was funny because you go out there and you see these other guys doing it, you're like, oh, that's easy, and you go out there and you shoot, and then you get done and your hits are just horrible. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people have to figure out how to work through that. And it's not that I've found this out from another experienced shooter. It's not that you can't shoot at that pace; it's that you can't shoot accurately at that pace. So you got to work towards being able to maintain that pace and that accuracy. I don't know. That's just my experience. Starting out, I don't know how you guys started out when you started shooting, if you were like that, because like my first match I went to, I burned it down, but like I said, it was just a mic fest. It was not pretty. I don't know. Did you guys have similar experiences like that starting out shooting, or?
Yeah. I mean, I started out shooting late 2011, and we have a couple masters, couple GMs around here, and I started trying to match them speed for speed and everything, and I look really good on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. It looks great until you see the target.
Absolutely.
What about you, Tim?
Well, my history goes back actually not just about as far as Craig's. I actually started shooting competitively and actually shooting handguns, period, back in 2010. So, and kind of the same way, we've got we've got a pretty good contingent of masters and GMs here in Kansas City, and you kind of monkey see, monkey do. You see those guys shoot really, really fast. You think, okay, well that's what it's got to take. And all of my background before, as far as what I knew about shooting handguns, was kind of standing in an indoor square range and just standing in a lane and shooting as accurately as I possibly could.
Right.
So when I saw guys ripping what I thought were fast even then, ripping sub .20 splits and things like that, I thought, oh my God, that is amazing. Well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I mean, you realize really quick that there's more to it than just a skill set of just kind of gripping the gun and whacking the trigger twice.
Right.
So, and obviously, as you quickly found out too, you shoot really, really fast, and unfortunately, the hits just aren't there. You kind of tend to throw spray bullets around everywhere, expecting the hits to be there versus you making things.
It's real fun when you're doing it. As soon as you put your gun in the holster, and you get your disappointment.
Right. So I mean, the thing for me was learning to not go as fast as I couldn't see the sights.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So I mean, and it does take a while. The biggest thing is being able to get your eyes to stay open, throughout the firing cycle. So, as you see the target, and then you align the sights up on the target or where you want, and you press through the trigger, and bang, the gun goes off. I mean, it's inhuman. It's not natural to have an explosion basically going off 1.5 feet, 2 feet in front of your face. So, the constant basically becomes that your eyes tend to blink, or you squint, or you flinch. So, and unfortunately, as everybody I'm sure has kind of quickly learned that follow through is what calling the shot is all about. So a lot of the training goes with being able to keep your eyes open throughout the firing sequence, and to be able to shoot as fast as you can see the sights. And as you're able to keep your eyes open throughout a firing cycle, and then repeat that firing cycle over again, so it's bang and then bang again. It's being able to do that, and then you'll be able to get quicker and quicker at it. It's not something you just go right out and like wang wang, and
right,
and slap the trigger and hit 2 hits on paper. So
that's the same thing that happened to me. I've only been shooting let's see, I got my membership last June or July, so I've been shooting this over a year now. And that back then, that's the same way I was, and it took me a while. It took me like a month or 2 months at least till I got to the point where I could just shoot as fast as I could see the sights.
Right.
And and then I started getting better points, and I started focusing on that. And that's what one of the other guys who was saying, one of the GM open shooters here, he's saying, he says accuracy first, then speed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
you learn really quick the correlation between just whacking the trigger at a target and and kind of expecting your hit factor to be there, your score to be there based on kind of a wing and a prayer versus being able to do what you can to guarantee good hits. And I'm sure you probably realized really quick that as you slowed down just enough, and I don't mean slow down, but you focused more on being able to see every shot for what it was. You're able to see the front sight lift and recoil from the rear notch and be able to call both of those shots. Even if it felt slower, I'll guarantee you, the first time that happened and you were able to call every single shot and see everything, then it was like, oh, well, holy crap, that was a lot faster than I thought, and holy cow, look at that hit factor.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm at now, starting to get there, especially with calling shots. It took me a while to get where I could really call shots like very consistently. Now it's bad. It's almost bad because I'll shoot like local matches, especially. I'll shoot a C. I mean, I'm shooting limited, so it's not as big of a deal to me, and I'll make up C's. For production, if I was shooting production, it'd be great. But for limited, just going by, it's just like, no, it's not even worth taking the. I don't know it until I'm off the target. There's no point in going back to it, and that's usually when I realize it's still a little late. But calling shots and just watching knowing where the sights were at when you shot or where the gun was pointed at. And I finally started, like I said, getting the accuracy down. And I just recently, now I'm starting to use more of my speed, I guess is the way to say it. Because like I was saying before, it's not that you can never shoot that fast. You can't shoot that fast from the beginning. It's just that you can't shoot that fast, accurately.
Definitely, yeah. Right.
Anybody can pull the trigger and shoot sub 20 splits, but where the hit's going to be. So
whenever I started, I never dry fired. I just went out to the range, and luckily, I have a range here with a steel plate rack, and I just went out there and tried to clear a plate rack, just kept backing up, and I came to realize that, tracking that front sight is so important with any type of shooting at any distance, and it's just whenever you finally get that in your head and finally, as you said, Tim, track your front sight from shot to shot.
And really, the way I look at it too is you should be able to go to the local match, and any target out there, you should be able to shoot A's on it at, I don't know, and I don't really have a set speed, but I mean at a general decent pace, you should have no problem hitting A's on that target. And some people will go out there and they'll sling shots at 20, 25 yards way faster than they can hit A's on. And of course, everybody has a tendency to do that whenever they're, in the moment shooting a stage. But I got to that point actually, and where the big realization for me was when I shot one of the local matches here. I don't know if you know Rob Romero, Tim, if you ever heard of him. He shoots for Geisley, and Rob, he's local here actually, so he shoots some of the local matches here. And I actually shot better points than him. I was like, wow, I shot better points than Rob. I was like, man, that's cool. But look how far down I was placement wise. So after that, that's when I started realizing, okay, now I've got my points. Now it's start time to add in back the speed that I had at the beginning, that I have always had access to, but just never completely used it all because caused the failure in accuracy. So now the last match I actually shot, Rob was there again, and I actually beat him by 1.8 seconds, time wise, and that was a big shock to me too. I did not expect that at all. I was like, I wonder how close. I was like, oh, I'm probably 10 seconds to him. If I'm just a little bit slower.
For the whole match or one stage?
For the whole match. Yeah,
so
but he still beat me because my hits weren't there. But that's because I'm not used to that speed yet. But that's another good point is you'll have people who at local matches or whatever, you'll see them shooting fast, and somebody else tell them, oh, you're going too fast. You need to slow down. Maybe if they're brand new, like we were saying, yeah, you need to learn how to shoot A's. But once you get to a certain point, you got to shoot that fast to know what it feels like in order to be able to shoot A's at that pace. It's like
absolutely
a really good analogy. One of the guys I shoot with said, if you want to run a 7-minute mile in 2 months, he says, and I'm going to make you run, I'm going to train you. We're going to go out and we're going to jog, all right? Okay, so in 2 months, what are you going to be? You're going to be a really good jogger. So, and he says, if you want to run the 5-minute mile, then you got to try a 5-minute mile pace, and you might only run half a mile and throw up, but you're going to know what 5-minute pace feels like, and eventually you're going to be able to run a 5-minute mile. And those,
Now,
you
is
throwing
Rob
up is a miss.
is Rob? He shot for Noveski. He's a 3-gunner. His
Yeah,
primary.
3-gun is what he's really into. He shoots limited minor.
So is he not shooting for Noveski anymore?
No, yeah, he still shoots for Rusty Geisley. Both of them, I think. I don't know what his sponsorship deal is.
Tim,
No, he's part of Noveski's team.
Yeah, right.
Or was.
Him and Jansen and a few others.
Tim, Stone Guy is also from the Atlanta area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
what's going on, brother? You in Atlanta as well, Tim?
No, I'm in Kansas City area, Kansas City, Missouri.
No, Tim's sponsored by SIG, shoots single stack for him, and he's a grandmaster.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, he shoots with he trains with Matt and them, and and I like talking with him whenever I can. I've met him up at Lamar a couple times, and I want to take a class with him. I'm shooting myself in the butt for not taking his last class, but I am on taking.
I promise you.
As soon as I can.
I promise you, there'll be more. So.
Yeah. And if I need to go up there, I have a couple friends up in Kansas City. So.
Well, you've probably been head to head with Randy Airwood.
I know Randy very well.
Yeah, Randy's a good friend of mine. He shoots a lot of single stack as well.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Randy and I got to shoot. Got the pleasure of shooting with Randy at Single Stack Nationals this year. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a hell of a nice guy. I love that guy to death.
He's a super good guy. So that's cool, man. Yeah, that's the thing about when you get into competition and shooting sports in general, you see it really is a pretty small community in the grand scheme of things.
USPSA has like 22,000 people across the nation.
How many of those people shoot major matches?
And what maybe. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe 2,000 of them would travel.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. But it's nice. It's I have as far as I played soccer for a number of years. I was a competitive power lifter for a number of years, and in law enforcement, and none of those other hobbies, let's call them, the community just wasn't as accommodating and inviting as I find the shooting community in the competition shooting sports. It seems like that community has been way more appealing to me, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Oh yeah, that's really really nice and welcoming. So, but going back to shooting fast, since you just hopped in, Stone Guy, what was it like for you when you first started? Were you one of those people I was saying earlier? It's like everybody when they first shoot competitions, like they want to go as fast as they can. It reminds me of that movie Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby. He's like, I want to go fast. It always reminds me of that. Were you like that?
Well, the thing about when I first, I transitioned because I was a shooter. I shot. I had. I don't know any other way to phrase it but it kind of sounds like I'm bragging. But I had really good fundamentals and very good accuracy with firearms before I got involved in competition shooting. I've shot since I was 12 years old, and became very proficient in a lot of weapon platforms. Not only in law enforcement qualifications, I seem to excel and always be really above the,
above the standard.
Yeah, above the standard. Thank you.
Right.
And so when I got involved in competition shooting, it was easier for me to go fast and still keep a level of accuracy. And like I was telling you a while back when we talked about this, was the fact that I'm a huge advocate for point shooting. I feel like point shooting is really a prerequisite when it comes to the competition arena.
Yes.
Because I feel like, and obviously there could be some people that that have the ability to find that front sight every time. But for me, I feel like it's impossible to find your front sight and
Well, see, when I'm shooting like that, I still see
be
it,
fast.
but it's more like subconscious. It's not like it's target focus is what I like to put it. It's you're focusing.
Yeah, see, and I'm totally opposite. I couldn't. I don't see my front sight whatsoever.
I see it, but it's not. But I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at the target, and I just happen to see the sight sitting there bouncing up, going up and down in front of me. And like a good example is I shot a local match here, and I was there was a close target, and it was like square right in front of me. It was the draw target, first target of the stage I was going to shoot. It was like had to be 4 yards, and I was like, I'm gonna really push this here. I'm gonna really try to get on this target fast. And I actually missed it. I shot low before I got up to the target, but I was still able to call it. I shot twice, shot the other target, and then came back and shot as I was backing out of the spot. And I was like, wow, I'm surprised that that still like I said, it still gives you that level of awareness that still you kind of know where the gun's pointing. It becomes more of an instinctive thing at that point.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what you need to master in a sense to be able to excel and become and have that speed that you need to really be competitive.
I'm playing with it and messing around with that point shooting and stuff like that for the past few months, and it's really starting to make a difference. I can tell.
Yeah, I think being able to call your shots also helps you go fast because you know that hey, this is a A, this is a B, this is a C. I'm good, and I go on. You don't have to try to look and see where your shots are.
Right, that's part of calling your shots and just knowing where your hits are going.
If you're following the shots, you're not calling the shots to begin with. You should not ever be chasing holes. And when I mean by chasing holes, I mean you're shooting a paper target, and then you're moving the gun off that target, and your eyes are still kind of focused on, ooh, did I hit that? And then you're moving on to the next one. If you're doing that, you've not yet begun to call your shots the way you should.
Right, so, and there's a really cool tip that I saw. It was actually Travis Tomasi, and you don't have to do it the same exact way he did it, but what he'd do is he would set up a target like it was far enough that you couldn't see the hole, so it forced you not to be able to see them. And he would say, he said, all right, shoot it, twice like it would at a match, and then have a target beside you and be like, okay, this is where my hits were, and point out where you thought you hit the target. And I actually never tried it. I thought it was a really good tip.
See, I run that drill a lot in my basic firearms class that I do, basic fundamental competition shooting class, and we do a lot on shot calling, and we'll run the shot calling drill. I'd say anywhere between 50 to 100 rounds too, just to give people the idea and knowing what it is to actually call a shot, and know what it is to guarantee the hit based solely on seeing the front sight lift and recoil, not anything else. So, and if they can't adequately call the shots, then the main thing I look at is what is keeping them from that, what's prohibiting them from doing that, and is it a matter of they're not seeing the sights for what they need to be, or are they rushing the trigger or whacking the trigger? Is there an issue with their grip structure? Are they cross-eye dominant and they didn't know it? I mean, there's quite a few things to look at that could prohibit or weaken somebody's skill set to be able to call a shot. Stone Guy, I know you were talking about point shooting, and you kind of advocate point shooting, and unfortunately, I'd have to disagree with you. I don't advocate point shooting simply because of the fact that you have no idea where those shots are going to be. So I like to kind of present a shooter with a scenario of at least 2 to 3 different types of sight acquisition. Whether it's you're looking at the target more of a target focus and just kind of looking over the top of the gun, which I guess in the realm of things that is kind of point shooting, but it's not point shooting, because point shooting would basically be using nothing more than just muscle memory or just body position to be able to point the gun and shoot a target. And you have to be able to see what it is you're about to shoot. Otherwise, basically, you're just kind of slinging lead out there and discharging the firearm without really knowing exactly where it's going to go. So, by looking at a couple of different ways as far as what your sight acquisition or what your sight pictures look like. Like I said, looking over the top of the gun, with a pretty strong or hard target focus, and that would be something that would basically be, a skill set or a technique that I would use on a target that's basically arm's length away to maybe even inside of 3 yards or 4 yards.
Right.
And then as you push the target out a little further, let's say 6 to 10 to 6 to 15 yards, I'd like to look at it as being able to see kind of what I would consider like a mid focus, and that's being able to see the target fairly, pretty clearly, being able to see the front sight clearly, although you are not absolute, like in the terms of fundamental marksmanship, where we kind of preach target is fuzzy, but the front sight is absolutely crystal clear focus, and that is what all of your acute senses are dialed into. And inside of 15 yards, that type of sight picture is not necessarily needed, but being able to know exactly what the sights look like as you're kind of looking through the sights, front sight, rear sight, to the target, and being able to press off 2 shots on those. And then, of course, we get all the way to what I call hard sight focus, which would be your traditional, target is fuzzy, front sight is absolutely crystal clear, rear sight is used to align the front sight, and then obviously without disturbing that sight alignment as you press through and send the shot. And that would be something you would use more on the 20 to 25 or 30 yard or beyond target distances. So the main thing, as far as the kind of getting away from the nomenclature of point shooting, I hate to, not that I hate, I dislike using that term because it kind of lends itself to maybe people thinking that they can get away without actually seeing through the gun to be able to know how to shoot fast and hit the target.
Right. That's why I like to call it target focus, like you were saying. It's like you see the sight is still there and you see it, you know where it's at. It's just you're focusing more on the target itself than getting a clear sight picture.
Well, and the problem I see.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say I'll definitely have to pay attention to exactly what I'm doing when you mentioned looking over the top of the gun, as a point of reference. I wonder, I'll have to pay attention and focus on that and see if that's more or less what I'm doing, or if I'm truly not seeing anything and just relying on my senses and my instincts.
Right, and that'd
be a good idea.
That's a bad habit to get into, because the thing is you start looking at a target, especially a close range target. Let's say not uber close range, arm's length away, but let's say 3 to 5 yards. And when you start looking at 3 to 5 yard target and you just kind of raise your hands and whack the trigger twice, what typically happens? I mean, if you really stop to think about what it is that you're processing that information, you're seeing the target and then you're actually watching 2 holes appear in the target, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay, so if you're doing that, what did we just talk about as far as being able to call your shots, or versus following your shots or chasing your holes? And when you're chasing holes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're actually impeding your ability to shoot faster because of the fact that you're waiting for 2 holes to appear where you think they should, instead of moving the gun to the next target and then waiting to see 2 holes appear in the next one. Whereas if you were kind of looking through the gun and being able to just know, okay, gun is pointed somewhere in the middle of the A zone, bang, bang, I pull the trigger twice, and now my eyesight is moving to the next target, and then bringing that front sight or bringing the gun to the next target, and bang, bang, I'm pulling it again. If you're looking at the target and you're just waiting for 2 holes to appear, you're 2/10 to 3/10 of a second behind the curve on every single transition from then on out.
Here's a question about that, because like sometimes you'll run into the problem you're doing exactly like that, and you call a miss, but you're already past the target. I mean, I guess it's just up to you. You have to decide then and there if it's worth it to go back or if to keep going.
It's always worth it to go back.
Always worth it.
You got to think about a miss as, a lot of guys are like, oh, it's a mic, so it's 10 points. Well, actually, it's 15 points.
Yeah.
Because you get the lack of an A. And the thing is if you've had the time to actually aim and pull the trigger twice on a target, then you had enough time to aim and pull the trigger and hit the target in 2 A-zone hits.
Right.
So that's where going too fast and kind of like doing just a point shooting thing and shooting sloppily can actually cause you more damage because of the fact then it's like, oh crap, I called a bad shot. Well, if you called a bad shot, you shouldn't have taken that shot to begin with. So that tells me you truly weren't watching what needed to happen during the firing cycle before you just sent the shot and got in a hurry to move the gun
what
onto
you
the
just
target.
what you just mentioned is kind of is when you said it's. I mean, do you consider that a hard, fast rule of always going back for it, or how do you justify the
Well,
time loss?
A lot of that has to do
versus
with
the score?
with just kind of math. If you look at kind of a general rule of thumb is a mic is worth a second and a half. If you kind of think of it just and it's maybe not a steadfast, loud and clear rule, but in general, a miss is going to be worth 15 points, or a 15-point deficit, which if you look at points just as a standard, that miss basically costs you 1.5 seconds detriment to your hit factor or to your score. So can you, in less than a second and a half's time, make up that miss? And 9 times out of 10, if it's if you're transitioning to say 2 targets that are let's say well within 3 yards of each other, shoulder to shoulder, and it takes you, let's say 3/10 or 4/10 of a second to move the gun from one target to the next target, and to be able to have to move that gun back from that second target back to the first to make up a mic, is that still less than the 1.5 seconds it would have taken you to accept a mic? Absolutely. So is it worth making up that mic?
Yes.
Absolutely. You better believe it.
The only problem that comes in is whenever, like I was saying earlier, when you start making up C's, like I did.
Yeah.
Last local match, I shot. It was a wide transition. It was like target, and then target. And I was on this one, and that was the last target. And then before I left this one, I went back and I shot a round, and I had like 3 A's on it or something, or it was like 2 A's and a C. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh my gosh. But it was like, I don't know, it probably took me half a second, I guess, total to go back and shoot it and then move.
Yeah, so something I'm noticing whenever I'm starting to push the time, I will be at 10 or 15 yard. I'll bring it up, and I'll be at a crisper front sight, like you said, Tim. But then I'll be lined up, and I call 2 C's because that's where I was aiming, and it's like it's like I have a mental block that, hey, I know I need to move it over, but I know I need to go fast, so okay, I'm going to take 2 C's, where I know, especially since I'm shooting production, I got to move it over 2 inches and get A's. And
and that's something, because with production, your power factor is not coming into play
correct.
As much with a C, a C hit. So I don't know. I don't think at that point it'd be worth.
No, it's definitely worth moving over and getting it.
You've got to think to yourself, if you do the general math of things, like I said, if you're taking the time to point the gun at a target and actually see the sights for what they are, and even somewhat remotely calling a shot, then you've spent enough time behind the gun to hit 2 A's.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, right.
So you should call 2 A's.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. And I think my issue is whenever I'm dry firing, I'm trying to beat the timer instead of calling my shots in dry fire. So I'll come up there and I'll dry fire, and I'm like, well, I think those are 2 A's. And now whenever I go to live fire, I know that they're not 2 A's, and I'm taking them anyway and moving on.
Right. And the best way to get away from that in your dry fire is put the timer away.
Okay.
Honestly, Craig, that'd be the thing I would recommend more than anything, is if you feel, and especially if you're honest with yourself now to know, I'm probably cheating my vision, and I'm cheating myself in dry fire to try to attain these par times in order to get to get your manipulation or to get the speed down. And now your speed, you're seeing the live fire, and you're seeing a deficit in the points when you go to live fire. Then that's a time to me that's the clear crystal cut cue to put the timer away and start focusing more so on being honest with yourself in what you're seeing in the front sight. So to say that you can't call adequate shots in dry fire, I'm completely against that thought and against that nature of anybody saying, oh, dry fire is only good for draws and mag changes and that's it. No, I run every drill I do. I run 15 to 100, 15 to 1,000 times it seems like in dry fire for every one round that I shoot in live fire. And I practice everything from transitions to, what I see between every single press of the trigger. Even though there's not a recoil sensation because the gun's dry, I'm
That's what
still
helped me.
right. You still want to be able to see the sights not disturbed as you're pressing the trigger. So, and if I see the sights even disturbed just slightly, then I know, okay, well, my grip pressure wasn't where it needed to be. So there's a constant struggle between time and speed, or speed and accuracy, even in accuracy and what you call in dry fire. And if you're having a problem being honest with yourself in dry fire because you're chasing some crazy time, put the timer away and just focus on smooth and absolute perfect technique and absolute perfect sight pictures.
That's
And
how I
then once
learned
you
to
get
follow
that,
through.
then integrate the timer back into it again and see where you're at.
That's how I
Alright,
learned to
sounds
follow
like
through on
definitely-
still, because I got bins printouts of the still targets, and I would just use a timer to start me, and that was it, just to draw. And I would sit there and I would just shoot each still target, and being completely honest, like you said, keep the sight picture disturbed and all that.
Here's something else to think about when you're talking about moving the gun fast as far as transitions.
Mm-hmm.
When you transition, and I want everybody to answer this question, and I want you to be as honest as possible, and think about what it is that you see when you move the gun. When you transition a target from one target to the next, what happens first? Does the gun move to the target first, then your eyesight, or does your eyes move to the target and then the gun? That's the first question I want an answer to.
For a while until I started dry fire, it was the gun first and the head followed, or my gun and head. I stayed concentrated on the front sight as I moved, and I started dry firing, and then I started trying to get certain par times, and then I noticed my head was turning and the gun was coming to my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I probably think if I think about it in depth, I'd probably say that sometimes I do move ahead of the gun, but I'd say that I'm more still used to just keeping the gun in my eyes in the same place, not following it necessarily, but it's like they're in the same time. So
I think my eyes go to the target first.
Well, if
Okay.
it's like it depends. It depends on like what kind of scenario it is. If I'm like shooting close targets, absolutely, it's not a problem for me as much. But I'd say farther stuff, I'm still a little slow on. I wouldn't say I'm behind it, but I would just say it's about the same. It's just like I play
Caleb,
right here. I mean,
would
it's like
it-
the same.
If I told you that what you probably should be doing every single time, and it's not even probably, it's a steadfast rule. If you want to get faster at transitioning the gun and being able to call your shots adequately between target to target, the gun should always follow your eyes. You should
Right.
never be behind the gun. You should always be ahead of the gun.
Yeah.
Does that make
So
sense?
how do you work on that? Do you just just do it in dry fire and just force yourself to look ahead of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The other thing, too, is when you guys, and the part two to my question on this is if you are, and should be leading the gun with your eyes to the next target. So let's say you press out, you shoot on this target, and then your eyesight moves to the next target, and you bring the gun over to it. What information exactly are you feeding to yourself before you press the trigger for the next target? So what I mean by that is, are you just looking at the target, or are you looking at a specific point on the target? And I want you to be 100% honest with me.
I'm looking at the target.
Okay, Caleb?
Oh, go ahead, Caleb.
I would say on farther targets probably not as much. On closer targets, yes. Like I'll pick out a specific spot. Especially I'll do that on a draw target. I'm pretty good at that. Like on a draw target, I'll look at a specific spot and sure enough, my hits will be right there where I was looking. But something farther like that, it's just general area center of where I line my sights up every time on the target.
Okay, strong guy?
And I'm looking at center mass.
Okay. So even center mass, that's kind of a steadfast way of saying that you're looking at the A zone. So
Right.
looking at the A zone, but would I sound completely crazy if I said that you actually should be pinpointing an absolute spot on the target to draw your eyes to then drive the gun to that absolute spot?
No. Like, because, I've noticed that if whenever I try to just aim for the A, I usually drop low and catch a C. But whenever I aim for an A, I try to aim for a high A because every now and again I will have a flinch straight down, at especially real close targets. And I'll go ahead, and if I do that, it allows me to have a little bit of flinch and still catch my A.
The flinch is caused by the fact that you probably don't have your grip structure exactly what it needs to be before you just start whacking on the trigger. And even on up close and personal targets like that, as easy as it seems, it's easy to get yourself into the spot of the proposition of thinking like, oh, well, that target's right there, and we tend to dismiss the simplicity of that target. You know what I mean? So we tend to kind of relax our hands a little bit in order to shoot faster, so to speak. But unfortunately, as Caleb kind of talked about a little bit earlier too, is when you start to do that, how often have you actually pulled off of a target or not quite got the gun to that target before you started pressing the trigger? And how often have we seen probably the closest shots in a stage be where you probably got an Alpha Mike or a Charlie Mike
or a Delta? Like I'll pull because I don't do this. Usually I don't shoot 100% of the match. I kind of throttle back a little bit, but I'm practicing live fire and I'm really practicing like draws or something. I'll shoot and I'm really pushing. I'll shoot way low Ds. It's crazy because I'm shooting so early before I get out there.
So
target.
So I honestly, if we wanted to talk just a brief kind of summary as far as what beginning advantages a person would need to do in order to begin to start shooting faster, is they have to begin to start seeing things sooner.
Yes.
Would you say that would carry over? Because honestly, my detriment to the whole game is mini poppers. For some reason, mini poppers.
That's why I'm always still that I practice on is 8 inches. that's all I have.
Mini poppers kick my ass.
I'll tell you why. I'll give you the absolute USPSA secret as to why you allow steel to kick your ass, but you seem to be good on everything else. Are you ready?
Yeah. Okay,
think of it this way. Whenever you see paper, 99 and 9/10% of people that actually shoot at paper, what do they see when they see a paper target? They see an A zone, a C zone, and a D zone, right? So nobody at all ever aims for a D.
Right.
Ds are just kind of an accepted lucky miss, if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Never in your wildest dreams would you ever just literally aim off the hard left or hard right of a target and purposely place shots in the D zone. So when you look at it that way, you look at a target, everybody aims at paper, okay? But for some reason, everybody has it in their mind that they just get to shoot at steel. You hear the difference? So everybody aims at paper and tends to make the mistake of shooting at steel.
So basically what you're saying is you should break up your steel into an A, B, C, D zone.
No.
So basically,
you should break your steel in the exact same way that you break your paper. Okay. So when I said that when you're looking at a specific spot on a piece of paper, on a paper target, so Stone Guy, you'd mentioned that you look at center mass, right?
Right.
So if I told you, let's say, I want you to say for the next 2 weeks, when you do any kind of live fire practice, I want you to not just focus at center mass of a paper target, but absolutely focus on the absolute letter A, dead center in the middle of that target. And that's where I want you to drive the front sight and then press the trigger and guarantee shots at centermost A zone of a paper target. Now, if you do that and you transpose that exact same technique or that exact same that same thought or mechanic to a piece of steel, and you look at it that way, so instead of just seeing a piece of steel, brushing the gun up across, as soon as you see white, you see your target, you see your front sight just kind of blip over white, and you smack the trigger. What happens? Then we miss the steel. So that's when steel starts eating our lunch. So does a piece of steel have an absolute dead center bullseye just like everything else?
Yes.
Absolutely. So how come we don't aim at dead center steel?
Because we're shooting at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same way that happens when Caleb, when you talked about I see paper and I bring my eyes and I just look at a target and I bring the sights to the target. Mm-hmm. I will guarantee you, if you use that technique to bring your eyes to the center of the target, exactly where you want the shots to go, and then bring the front sight to that eyesight of focus. Then press the trigger and do the exact same thing if you did on steel. I guarantee you, almost with certainty, you'll hit steel 99% better than you will before. Because the only uncertainty would then be misalignment of the sights based on either grip or trigger fundamental. You're yanking the hell out of the trigger or something else. But if you're aiming dead center of the steel, what's the difference between aiming at dead center of the steel or just seeing steel, bringing the sights to it and pulling the trigger? There's absolutely no time difference. If you took the time to bring the gun in front of that steel and press the trigger, then you had enough time to aim dead center of that steel and press the trigger and hit the steel.
Exactly.
And we are going live. We are live on Gun Channels right now, and there's Gun Channels is a website for shooters, built by shooters. We have this is live. We have podcasts, or not podcasts, but live chats almost every night, and
cool.
It's basically where you can get together and sit at a watering hole in your front at your gun store, and then we have chats like this. And there is a live.
So we got some questions coming in.
Questions, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the question
go ahead.
I wanted to get to. What is a key point to notice that will knock the most time off of a stage? I don't know. Can I answer it a little bit? Kind of what I would think.
Please.
Well,
you're not
first,
a grandmaster. Shut up.
Yeah. Well, first, this question is coming from a guy. He has never shot a USPSA match. He drove down about 3 hours to watch Caleb and myself shoot a little bit at Kentucky. So he's fresh into it. He's eager to get into it.
He doesn't have a rig set up yet, but he wants to. He wants to shoot.
Correct.
Okay. You guys looking for me to answer this first?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
The key point, I guess let me rephrase the question or re-ask the question again. What's the key point to notice that will knock the most time off of a stage?
Yep.
First, and absolutely without a doubt foremost, you have to be able to know how to hit the target. Period. You could be the fastest shooter in the world, but if you're the fastest at shooting mics, guess what? You're not going to be very good. So you have to be able to hit shots accurately. There should not be any shot on a stage that you don't feel confident that, given, let's say, a lack of a time constraint. So let's say you take the timer all the way out of the equation. There should not be a shot out there on that stage that you couldn't just literally aim at every single target and be able to hit center of those targets and gain 100% of the points per stage without time constraint.
Tim, let me ask you this, and this is something I've struggled with.
Okay.
As far as what some people refer to as gaming the stage, what we know is a walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
What's your feeling on that as far as walking that stage and getting a mental game plan?
You mean as far as like visualizing the stage and figuring out?
Yeah, like when you walk through that stage and getting a game plan in your mind and knowing, okay, I'm going to shoot this here, I'm going to reload here, I'm going to do this here. Do you find that's an absolute must, or do you think that sometimes it kind of plays against you in the psychological aspect where you psych yourself out?
I believe for a new shooter, obviously it's extremely overwhelming to look at a stage. And let's just take, for example, a USPSA long course, a long stage, a field course. So you got 32 rounds. So, and 32 rounds being shot from the gun means there's at least 16 targets, or a compromise of a certain amount of targets that are steel, certain amount of targets that are paper. And obviously things are in different arrays. And I can see where that's extremely overwhelming to a new shooter that maybe doesn't understand what it is to have a game plan or be able to visualize a stage. But, it's like being able to try to figure out a puzzle blindfolded. You can't. It doesn't happen. So in order to be able to put a puzzle together, it's like being able to put a puzzle together with all the puzzle pieces turned where the cardboard side's up, right? So we still can't put that puzzle together until we know what the picture itself looks like, and to be able to flip all the puzzle pieces over and then to be able to put that puzzle together. And some people work better putting the puzzle together and use let's say a certain part of the picture. Other people do puzzles and they put the outer borders all the way around together, and then they start building it from the outside in. So those are the strengths and weaknesses of each shooter as they visualize a stage and as they do their walkthrough and figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are. So to a new shooter, the main thing I would look at is, first of all, you've got to know where all the targets are at.
Yes. I used to forget targets. Like I didn't like forget a lot of targets, but like it never failed. Like the first 3 or 4 months of me shooting, I'll forget like at least 1 or 2 targets per local match. It drove me crazy.
So, something I like to do is walk down stage, because they'll take and they'll hide targets from one spot, and you go to another and it appears. You go to another and same one appears.
Shoot the same targets twice in some scenarios.
Go down stage and count the targets from the back end of the stage.
Right. Well, you can get into some pretty advanced things when we start articulating about, like, how to walk the stage the best. Trying to keep this into kind of a beginner shooter, like I guess this gentleman's first question is for like a newcomer, what's the best way to just be able to kind of get through the stage? And the first thing to do is read the stage diagram or read the stage description. So the first thing I want to know is what the start procedure is. I want to know how many targets are on the stage, or how many rounds, what's the round count, and then whether or not it's like a Comstock or Virginia count. That's it. Or if it's IDPA, it will be, what is it, Vickers and limited Vickers or whatnot.
I have no idea.
So I don't play that game either. But with USPSA, I want to know, am I able to take more than just the acquired amount of shots to get all the targets? Or, am I limited by, like I said, if it's Virginia count, am I limited to, okay, it has to be this number of shots, or it can be over that number of shots? So, but then once I find out the round count, then the next thing I want to do is start at the beginning, and I immediately want to eliminate the first array of targets. So the first array of targets being everything that I can see from the very beginning of the stage, or what my first position would be. So once I count out those 4 or 5 targets, okay, then I eliminate those completely, and I know, okay, I've got, let's say, I can see 5 targets, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's 10 rounds. So I'm a third of the way complete, right? So then the next thing I want to do is I want to go all the way down to where I plan on finishing this stage, and I want to look at the round count I've got there at the finish. And let's say in the finish I've got 4 more targets I can see. So I know I've got 10 at the beginning, and I've got 4 more targets at the end, so that's 8. So that's 18 shots out of my 32 shots, right? Mm-hmm. So I can immediately eliminate those. So now I only have to focus on, out of the 18 shots, is what do I got left? 18, 20, I got, 12 shots, 14 shots left. So in that middle array, I'm looking at where my 14 shots are going to be. And that simplifies it, honestly, in a way that now you don't worry about the start, and you don't worry about the end. Now all you're worried about is the stuff in the middle, which tends to be what fumbles people up. Mm-hmm. So,
and that's kind of the way I do it. I'll read the stage description, look at the round count, and then after I walk the stage and kind of figure out the different ways to shoot it, and then I find out how I want to shoot it, I'll go through and I'll walk it, and as I go through, I'll round count, and when I get to the end, I should have the same amount of round count as the stage says. And so there's several times where I get at the end, and it's like, oh, I forgot this target. I only have 30 rounds out of 32. Where's the missing target? And you have to go back and find it, and then I'm good.
And it's tough to say too, like big memory stages like that, where like you can see multiple targets from multiple different positions, is really tough. And in something like that, I would say definitely the easiest thing to do is just like Craig had eloquently stated, was go down range, go down to the targets, count all the targets from back, and then look at, from the target's perspective, back up range to what you can see from what positions.
Right. Especially if there's vision barriers.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing, I'm really lucky where I'm at. My local range, the way she sets up targets is she'll have 5. She has 4 bays, but she puts 5 stages on them, and 3 of them, they're memory. All of them are memory.
Right.
And then you get the 2 of the, okay, shoot 8 here and shoot 8 there. So for me going to other matches, the memory stages are golden for me, because I've been shooting that for years, once a month. Mm-hmm. So that's I like memory stages, and I know a lot of other people that don't go to hers because they don't like memory stages.
Mm-hmm. Now going back to the original question, I guess this is what I would say, kind of like from not answering the question, but from like where I'm at now, what I've been focusing on to knock time off, and I think it was either Tim or Matt mentioned it in one of Ben's podcasts, was pretty much there's two ways, there's two times in a stage. There's time spent shooting and there's time spent not shooting. So I've been focusing a lot on movement and stuff like that, and reducing that time where I'm not shooting, because it's a lot, it's not that hard to move, especially for me, as young as I am, and I'll go back and watch footage. I'm like, wow, I could have moved a lot faster and gotten in a position a lot quicker there. I could have. And I've been really trying to get on top of that, and it's really for me. I'm like I said, I'm physically fit, so it's more of a mental thing. So before I'd be shooting at a shooting position, and instead of thinking about moving to the next spot, I'd be thinking about, okay, now I gotta go shoot this. When I should have been thinking about getting to from A to B, and now I've been doing that, trying to kick myself. As soon as I shoot the last target, it's like move, and I just move, and I get there. And I've noticed a big difference in stage times, just that. And that was before. I mean, I wasn't even changing my shooting speed or anything. It was same shooting speed.
And just a little info: Caleb is 20, so
yeah, that helps out a lot.
he doesn't wake up sore yet.
Here's something to process and think about as well when you talk about shooting fast. Is a gun itself, and any gun takes a certain amount of time, or its cyclic rate. As far as lock time, of when you see the sights, you press the trigger drops the hammer or releases a striker, the striker hits the primer explodes the powder pushes the bullet down the barrel, and the shot is sent, right? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it takes a certain amount of time then for recoil to operate to slide back, put the slide back into battery, put another round in the chamber, and you're ready to start that process over again. So you can't speed up that
rate.
You can't speed up that rate. You can't speed up that one thing, which is actually, that's the shooting part, right? Mm-hmm. So the only thing you can do between shots is what is, if for all intents and purposes, is a transition, right? So once the timer goes off and you draw the gun, that draw to the first shot is a transition. And from the first shot to the second shot, of course, we know that is a split. But then from the next target to the next target, that time is a transition. If you put a reload in there, that's just an even longer transition. So we can't speed up the shooting process, but we can speed up anything else that isn't a shooting process. So just like we talked about on Ben's podcast, there's a certain amount of time it takes to do the actual shooting, and then everything else is the non-shooting. So the difference between a guy that might be an unclassified shooter or a D or C class guy to a guy that's an M or GM is the M or GM guy has done nothing but be able to reduce the amount of non-shooting time to make it as efficient as possible. So, in essence, my gun doesn't shoot faster than Craig's gun. Exactly. Craig's gun doesn't shoot faster than Caleb's gun. Caleb's gun doesn't shoot faster than Stone Guy's gun. So the guns themselves, cyclic rate, and everything else comes into play as far as shooting. When you see a target and you put the sights on the target and you press the trigger, it takes X amount of time, which is just guaranteed by physics that's what it's going to take to send that shot. Now, everything that we do outside of shooting is where we can reduce time. The key number one thing, honestly, to make sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off.
No, keep going.
The key number one thing that any shooter can get faster at, honestly, is being able to speed up their transitions. And that's the time between targets.
That's what you're talking about, the eyes in front.
Absolutely. Yeah. Leading with the eyes.
That a lot, because I know I can do it. It's just I gotta get used to it. Mm-hmm. So, and then talking about how fast the gun shoots, I guess that's where you see why you see people mess around with like spring weights and different powders and things like that. Is not because it's actually making the gun faster, but it helps them see the sights faster.
You're exactly right. Now you're getting it. That's exactly right. It's being able to track the gun with their eyesight so that they can lead themselves and lead the gun with their eyesight. So, yeah, I mean, you see the theme?
Yep.
The theme is always the same. It's eyes. It's being able to see, and the more you're able to feed your brain that information faster, then the slower it seems like time kind of slows down because you're more cognitive of everything around you, and you're able to make decisions quicker because you've given your brain a whole lot more information because you're doing everything with your eyesight. You're leading everything with your eyes.
Yeah, something I've noticed about exactly what you're saying, that time kind of slows down when you're shooting is, like I told you that I was going from one eye open to both eyes open. I noticed that I finally got away from the piece of paper over my left inside of my left eye.
That'll help you a lot.
Right. I'm noticing just by having all that information from both eyes, time is slowing down quite a bit while I'm shooting, just
Yeah,
because all that
I think before,
information is going into my head.
I think before when you had that pace on there, it looked like this right here all the time.
Yeah, pretty much. It did. It did. And I was using that. I was using that, those blue painter's tape in there just to get comfortable with shooting with my left eye open. Not so much as getting the input, but just having my eyes relaxed enough to not squint, not blink, not anything. As the explosion's going off a foot and a half in front of my face.
I just think that's something that everybody's got to work with personally because everybody's eyes are different. How they mentally process it. For me, I just take a couple lines of dry fire, just sitting there and figuring out where to direct my eyes, and eventually I figured out exactly how to focus my eyes, and I just did it like it was completely random. I was sitting there trying to do it. I'm like, oh, that was it. And then after that, I got the feel for it, and then I was like, okay, now I can use both eyes. So then after that, it was pretty easy.
Yeah, and then last week was the first week I shot without that piece of paper, without that tape, and the first two stages, I was picking the front side up with my left eye and the rear side up with my right eye. And you want to talk about a lot of mics. and then it finally clicked in my head. I'm like, because I was like, why is that feeling so wrong? And the reason it was feeling wrong is because my muscle memory, my gun was cocked, and my muscle memory was telling me something's not right here. So once I figured that out, I started shooting faster. So
good.
Any other questions? I don't know. About ready to wrap it up. I don't know. It's if we're holding you up too long, Tim.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I'd say we've covered quite a bit of information, though. I could go on that kind of subject all the time.
Well, let me ask you this, since we're just for the sake of keeping it going just a tad longer.
Sure.
I heard you make reference to the fact that you teach classes.
I do.
Is that strictly a competition atmosphere? Do you teach self-defense type classes as well? Or?
I kind of steer myself clear of the self-defense. That's not my background. I've never been in law enforcement or military or anything like that. There's other guys I think with the better suited skills and needs being able to utilize that type of information to teach better with. Primarily my background as far as what I teach and what I specialize in is all competition-based stuff.
Sweet. Well, no, that's admirable, man. That's actually really, really admirable that you would be, I hate to say man enough, that's kind of a negative connotation,
Honest enough
to know, because there's a lot of trainers / instructors out there that think just because they can shoot a gun they can teach anybody anything.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so I'm not one of those guys. No,
so that's refreshing to know that to know that you're that kind of guy that only teaches what he feels he can truly benefit from.
Thanks.
But anyway, so the question was going to be, as far as your mag changes, something that I struggle with is, and it's not a struggle in the manipulation or the completion of the task. It's more a mental thing as far as whether or not I want to drop a mag out of my gun before I have hands on another mag. Meaning, there's a lot of guys that will fling their mag out as they're reaching down before they actually have a tangible, before it's actually in their hand.
We call those guys early droppers or late droppers.
Right. So it's it's kind of one of those things because, and I'm crossing over into kind of a self-defense application as well, because if you drop your mag before you've actually found a replacement mag, well then you've disarmed your gun. You've just made your firearm useless. if you drop that mag before you have another mag in hand.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
that kind of plays more into the self-defense aspect in some ways. But I also think in the competition atmosphere, it's it's nice because you want to. I think they all kind of tie together ultimately. I mean, ultimately it's all weapons manipulation, and you're going to default in a lethal force situation. You're going to
Sure.
default to that training. So how do you feel about or what's your mindset or your philosophy when it comes to changing the mag?
When my mindset, honestly, I'm kind of the get the magazine out of the gun as early as possible, as quickly as possible. I don't want there to be anything prohibiting me from being able to get a fresh source of ammunition to the gun as fast as possible. So
Right, because you're already discarding it, so you don't want it anymore.
right.
exactly. I mean, there's a reason there's a reason I'm dropping that magazine from the gun to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
In a competition atmosphere, I've expended the ammunition I want to expend from that magazine. I'm ready to get that magazine out of the gun as fast as possible. At the same time, my support hand's coming down, then grabbing a new source of ammunition, putting it in the gun, and then getting the gun back on target as fast as possible. I don't want there to be any hang-ups by, well, I'm not going to quite release this magazine until I have another source of ammunition in this hand ready to go in, because then you're waiting on a couple of things to happen instead of being able to kind of mold that entire sequence of events in to make it as seamless as possible. So there shouldn't be, I kind of preach, there shouldn't be any hiccups in your game when it comes to that. So, you know what I mean? So I want to be able to, as soon as I'm finished firing that last shot and I know I'm going to make a mag change, I'm ready to hit the mag release as fast as possible as my support hand is basically just coming off the gun. That old magazine's coming out of the gun at that exact same time. Grabbing a new magazine off the pouch, I'm putting that magazine in the gun, I'm getting the gun back on target as fast as possible and all as seamless as possible.
Right. Mine's pretty simultaneous like that. It's like
Yeah.
pretty much like same as the magazine's hitting ground is usually about the time that I'm like right here with it seated, and then then it hits the ground and I'm driving out.
Right.
But, I don't know. I think that's pretty much it for questions. I got one simple question.
We do have one more question. Oh, for all you guys out there that are seeing Tim manipulate everything with his left hand, he is a lefty, and he does hit that mag release with his index finger.
Southpaw. My brain hurts.
But he doesn't switch
like
anything. He doesn't switch anything to his left hand. He hits that mag release with his index finger.
Yep.
So there was a question. I
was going to ask him about
what kind of rig, mag holders, and stuff like that. That is coming from Catchboy. I can't remember who that is, but
he's over in Europe, actually.
Yeah.
What kind of rig do I use?
Yes.
I use at this point this season I've used strictly Blade Tech. I've used a Blade Tech outside the waistband holster. I believe it's their Stingray holster. It's got their Stingray mount to the belt with just a standard single stack holster that I've used actually since I started competition shooting. And then I just switched over to the Blade Tech single stack, and as well as when I shoot production, my production magazine pouches are also Blade Tech, the competition pouches. So actually they're pseudo competition pouches. They're competition pouches. They're able to adjust the cant to be able to position the magazines either fore or aft to be able to cant them to your belt. And unfortunately for me, being a southpaw, they do not make any of their magazine pouches in a competition variant because it's too hard to change their tooling to be able to make everything correct for what would be the left side of the belt for me. Or actually the right side of the belt for me. Everything they make is for the left side of the belt for a right-handed shooter. So what I had them actually do for me is I'm using their standard magazine pouches, but I've had them actually do the competition cuts. So they've got the dropped grasping cut, or competition cut on the front of them, or relief. And other than that, they stand straight up against my body. But yeah, and I use a Blade Tech belt as well. So everything I use has been Blade Tech. Last year and years past, I've used the Blade Tech holster with the CR Speed Versamag pouches. So
one more question. How long did it take you I'm gonna interject. The first GM card.
Actually, my one and only GM card right now is in single stack.
Oh, you're not GM in production yet?
Nope, not a GM in production. I don't shoot enough production to move up or actually to kind of care about it. I'm like, oh yeah. I know as a master you're going to shoot with those guys anyway. So I made like I said, I began shooting USPSA in July of 2010, and I started as a C class guy. And let's see, I then quickly moved to B, and I was a B for a couple of years. I actually made M towards the end of 2013, and I shot as an M up until middle of last year, and then I made GM last year, and have been GM since then. So in single stack.
Nice.
Maybe that's an indicator, because I got C in my first classification, barely.
No, it's awesome.
I skated in there, and I was like, no, I'm going to be here forever.
My very first match ever, went out with a buddy to see what this USPSA thing was all about, and lo and behold, I show up not really knowing a whole lot about much of anything, and it was a 6-stage classifier match.
Oh, nice.
I don't know what this means, but okay, so it was a lot of fun. So,
I shot my first one. I shot my first last stock at 63%, and then I shot the rest of them like in the 40s.
And I've been stuck as an A class for almost 2 years now. I don't want to do that.
I have 3 single stack classifiers, and they're all like sub 40s or right around 40%. That's what I started out with, and then the 2012 scare hit, and I was like, okay, I need to consolidate, and that's why I switched from single stack to production, because I know I wanted to shoot more and it was cheaper. And now I'm kicking myself in the butt for getting rid of that R1. But I have been looking around for some SIGs.
Well, what do you shoot? I don't know if you talked about what single stack do you shoot?
I shoot a SIG Max Michel edition 1911.
Okay.
Actually, hang on here just real quick. I'll show you.
I actually got to shoot with Max and his father at
He's not on the mic right now.
In East Alabama.
East Alabama.
East Alabama.
I thought you're not from Georgia, aren't you? Still, are you originally from here?
Oh no, I'm a military brat. I was born in Germany.
But you adopted that southern accent. It doesn't matter.
Oh well, shit. I've been in the South 20 years.
So basically, what I shoot is an out-of-the-box stock single stack Max Michel version SIG 1911. So it's it's got the really cool Dawson Ice magwell on it, and it comes with basically their TAC Ops thumb safety, and of course it's got about a medium-sized flat trigger, and then it's got like a Bomar style rear adjustable sight and a Dawson front sight. They come equipped stock basically out of the box with a Koenig hammer and a EGW sear and all kinds of cool stuff. So I mean the gun equipment-wise, I mean it's out of the box. It's ready to play in single stack. So
right on.
Since we're doing gun porn, I have no idea what all's been done to this, but this is what I just got to shoot. It's a 2011 STI.
Super sweet.
Caliber. So, but my friend has an Edge, which has a full dust cover, and I want to shoot his at the next match side by side and see which I like better. But so far, I like the way this feels.
See, I used to think I wanted a full dust cover gun, and I like the short dust cover, the standard kind of 1911 style. So, and as Craig was talking about, yes, I am a lefty, so of course an ambi safety is a necessity for me. But as far as the mag release, that's the only modification I've made to this gun is that I've got the Ed Brown extended mag release, just a big button on it, and when I make a mag change, basically my finger just comes off the trigger and directly onto the mag release, just like that. And that's how I manipulate the gun.
That would be kind of comfortable left-handed. I can see.
Tim, are you familiar with the SIG Nightmare?
I am. Yeah.
That's what I have.
That's awesome. Does yours have the rounded grip on the back of it?
Yeah, like the Kimbers.
Yeah. Yep. No, those are fantastic guns. So
I do have a 1911 question. Or sorry.
No, go ahead.
Maybe you're just going to tell me to suck it up, but since I just got this Monday, and I have a 1911 and 45 single stack that I would play around with, and it kind of do it. But this one, I don't know if it's got a different cut on it. But how do you keep it from like hurting you like right here? Like,
Oh Jesus! Learn how to grip it.
well, no, I mean it's just like I can feel it bite. I mean, it's not like it tears the skin or anything, but it's just like it's rough, like a sharp edge.
Is it on the ambi safety? Yeah, it all depends on how the gunsmith fit it to the back of the beaver tail. So if they didn't fit it to the back of the beaver tail and there's a lot of sharp edges on there, I will knock those down with a diamond file or something like that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the TAC Ops adjustable safety on the back of my 1911 and all the SIG stuff they're smoothed and rounded on the back of them anyway, so they clearance the beaver tail pretty well. But I have seen a few like full custom built guns where the beaver tail or the grip safety actually there ends up being a slight like almost pinch point.
Yeah.
Right around your thumb knuckle, that a little bit of relieving on that will actually fix that.
Looking at it, everything's smooth except for like right here. I don't know if I can see on the camera.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right there where the beaver tail meets the frame.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like a little edge there. I'm not gonna knock it down because it's not my gun, but I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay.
Whenever I have one that's my own.
Tim, you said you run a Dawson front sight. My backup CZ has a Dawson front sight, and my original one is just the one I use for competition is just the original front sight, and I could see a massive difference. The Dawson is so much crisper.
Mm-hmm.
Having that crisper front sight versus I guess a washed out front sight, I'm guessing would help you quite a bit.
Well, it just helps you to be able, especially when those refined sight pictures on farther targets where you really need to refine the sight picture for a hard aim. As far as, a lot of guys like the really, really bright fibers, they like the really bright, bold red and things like that. I actually don't like a super bright red fiber, and I don't like a super bright fiber anyway. I use kind of a faded light green color on mine. It's kind of a scientific thing. Your eyes actually pick up hues of green a little faster, or they queue up on green a little faster than they do red. So for one, it allows me to be able to, how true that is or not, I don't know. But it's kind of one of those things for me. It's a little softer and easier for my eyes to pick up the green. At the same time, I don't tend to over-focus on the fiber itself and end up basically shooting an iron sight gun like a dot gun.
Well, how do you feel about the like Savigny sights where they're blacked out rears and then you're only, seeing the front sight? You don't really have any kind of...
Yeah, see, my Bomar sight on the back of my gun is a full blacked out rear, and then the only thing I see on the front is just the front fiber. So I don't like anything on the rear sight because to me it's visual noise.
Right, absolutely.
You have Wolfen Combat on them, and I'm really liking them. They're very similar to the Bomars, because they're not textured on the back. They're just smooth, but they're just plain. They're nice, though. I like them.
Yep.
So any more questions, guys, before we call it a night?
Well, G-Webs, he is basically one of the creators of gun channels. He asks, what's your carry gun, if you carry?
My carry gun?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
My carry gun actually is a SIG P320 compact in 9mm.
Okay.
So.
He's a 40 guy. You better watch it.
He's just.
Yeah.
Well. He's
So,
got.
He owns
issues,
9mm.
that's what,
too.
yeah.
He's conflicted.
He's got to compensate. He's compensating for lacking in other areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. So, anyways, before we wrap it up, Tim, where can people find you if they want to come train with you?
Best place to find me, honestly, is just on Facebook. I've got just my personal Facebook page. It's just Tim Herron. And then I've got Tim Herron Shooting, which is my my Facebook athlete page. That's kind of all things shooting, all things Sig Sauer. Also on the Team Sig Sauer website. And, or you can just hit me up. Basically, the best way to get me is just through Facebook. So.
Right on. And do you just another quick follow-up question to that? Do you travel? Or do you train all over?
I do. I do train. I do train and teach classes all over. Planning on. I would like to fill my schedule with actually a lot more classes, 2016 and beyond. So yeah, if getting in some training is something you and a group of guys are wanting to do, give me a ring or seek me out on Facebook, and
Right
we'll
on.
make some.
Maybe some guys from Gun Channels get together and we'll have a class.
That'd
That'd
be
be
awesome.
fantastic.
So yeah, appreciate it. So I think I'm going to call it a night. Appreciate you coming out, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Hey,
Do this again
Michaela,
sometime.
before you shut it off, yeah, we've got we've talked briefly about gun channels.
Oh,
So
Bruce mentioned it earlier.
yeah, so everybody knows.
Yeah.
Go
So
check out
anybody listening, check out
gunchannels.com.
gunchannels.com. It's like a social media site
Right,
for gun people.
Shooters.
and what we're gonna do
Without ads, like
tonight,
Facebook.
we're giving away a Glocktober patch.
Oh, nice. Are we? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so let's.
Am I supposed to give that out?
Yeah, so let's just pick one person from the chat and give away the Glocktober patch. It's a specialty patch that gun websites developed or made up, and it's awesome patch. It's his second annual Glocktober patch, so it's something pretty neat. I haven't even got one yet, so they're pretty special. So we're gonna give that away as soon as Caleb picks a winner here.
Oh, you want me to pick it on air?
Yeah.
That's tough. Most of the people probably already may have bought one, but I don't know. I'm conflicted here. Pink Panther was the new shooter who's asking a lot of questions, so I think he'd be a good choice. I don't know. What do you guys think?
There you go.
I agree.
Pink
All right.
Panther.
I agree.
So Pink Panther, you win, man. Go to gunchannels.com/DPG daily patch giveaway. Fill out the form, and we'll send you a patch right out.
Right on.
Appreciate
All right.
everybody tuning in.
Yep. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.